Hey there everybody! Today I'm going to show you how to make these really pretty DIY mistletoe kissing balls for Christmas time. The supplies you're going to need for this project is 50-pound cardstock. You can use up to 65-pound, and I like to use a metallic cardstock, which I have here, and that is linked below in the description. You also need a cutting machine, you'll need a glue gun, a foam egg base to build upon, or you could use a large plastic Easter egg if you have any of those lying around. You'll need the mistletoe templates, which are linked below in the description. You'll need a ribbon, some wire, and also a little bit of green tissue paper because we're going to cover our foam egg or plastic egg in tissue paper. So we're going to start making this really cute kissing mistletoe ball, and I have lots of different shapes cut out here. I have some mistletoe and some berries. I also have a foam egg here, and that's what we're going to be building all of these paper mistletoe cutouts and pieces onto. And we're going to be first covering this egg in tissue paper so that we don't see any white poking through as we glue our paper mistletoe pieces and berries onto this base here. So we're going to be covering that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just adding a little bit of glue around the top of my foam egg, and I'm covering it with this thin tissue paper. Your tissue paper could potentially rip a little bit at the top. Mine rips just a tiny bit. It's okay if it's just a little bit. It won't matter. We just want the majority of the egg here covered in this green tissue paper to act as a background. Now near the bottom here, you want to add some glue and press all that tissue paper closed over the bottom. You're also going to need to cut off some excess here. You'll probably have some excess sticking out, and you don't need to try and glue all that down. Just trim off as close to the base as you can. And then just go back in and in between all those little folds that you now have that you've gathered at the bottom. You can just drop some little points of glue in there, and you'll be able to get that to come together smoothly. Don't worry about this being perfect. It's not going to be seen ultimately in any detail whatsoever. It's just going to be acting as a means to an end to make sure that we don't see white in the background. So I'm just adding in my final bit of glue here in all these little folded areas that need to still have that tissue paper grabbing at that base foam egg there that we're using. Okay, so now I'm going to start adding on my mistletoe pieces. I'm starting with these kind of longer mistletoe branch pieces first, and I'm going to be sort of draping them over the top point of the egg and letting them kind of fall down the side. They have a lot of natural movement to them. You can see as I'm moving them around in my hands here. So you don't really have to shape these too much. You can pretty much just kind of let it fall naturally around. But like I said, I'm starting with these longer pieces here. There's a longer one like this, and there's a shorter one in the templates, but I'm going to start with the longer one. You can see I'm placing it right there over the tip of the egg. That's a good place to start. Just add a tiny bit of glue and lay one of those over the top. Now you can see that it doesn't necessarily hold to the form of the egg very well, so you want some pieces that are kind of clinging more to the center and some that are kind of sticking out a little bit more to make it look natural. So for some of these first pieces, I'm going to add a little extra glue along the bottom curve of the egg, and I'm going to be placing that over with my mistletoe piece there. I'm just gluing that down a little bit more. With some of the pieces we're going to add on top of this, you can kind of let it be a little bit more free-falling, and it can have more movement to it. We just want to make sure that some of that egg is covered as well. And I'm going to add this next piece here the other direction. I designed the templates like this so that you could easily cover this egg-shaped base by just kind of laying them over the top of the egg and letting them fall down to the side, and then adding a little glue. If you can't find these foam eggs at your craft store, they are sold online, like Amazon and those places have it. But if you have any spare Easter eggs laying around, you could actually use that as well. So I'm just continuing here with a few more of these pieces, kind of crisscrossing back and forth, different angles, different directions to get a good initial coverage here. There isn't an exact rhyme or reason to this, so be free with it, have fun with it, go back and forth and just work on covering that egg as evenly as possible. Also use your hands a little bit to kind of just gently press the mistletoe, the paper mistletoe to the center form of the egg. Kind of gently pressing with your hands can help shape it to the egg form in the center. Now I'm picking up a few other pieces here. I cut out some mistletoe sprigs in a different green color here, and I'm just adding in a few of those now. I recommend, you can do it all in one color if you want, that's totally fine. But I do recommend adding in another color or two to kind of create some shades of variation in the green. Very rarely is anything exact in nature, so it can be nice to have a little bit of variation to make it look a little more realistic and pretty. And you can get to play with some different colors. So I use sort of like a deep teal evergreen for the base ones, and then I'm using sort of a true sort of sagey green for this one, or I don't know what you would call that exactly, but it's a more traditional green, and I'm adding some of those pieces in. You can tuck that in underneath some of those other pieces to make it look more natural. And we're going to be adding a little wire and bow to the top of this, so don't worry about the very tippy top of your egg. It won't be seen when you're done. So if it's like looking weird, because you can see here with mine, I'm placing mine, and you can see the starting point of how my mistletoe sprigs are like being glued on there. You won't be able to see that once we add our little bow and our wire at the top. So just continue with this process, sticking some pieces, up underneath other pieces and adding more from the top and mixing in the styles and colors from the templates. And like I said, I do not have any rhyme or reason to this. You can see I'm just kind of going around randomly, adding in things, gluing down pieces that I don't like the way they stick out, and that's exactly what you'll do too. So I'm just continuing here, adding little pieces in any spaces that I see. Try to be very particular about covering spaces and not letting too much of that green tissue paper show through. I have one other color here I'm adding. It's kind of a lighter green color that I'm mixing in. I use that with the mistletoe sprigs, and I'm putting some of those on top and tucking some underneath as well. And I'm just going around and continuing to fill out the fullness of this mistletoe kissing ball. I'm adding in just a few more here in this slightly darker shade of green that I sort of tucked in as my second piece because I just, again, want to really randomize those colors to create a lot of fullness and texture to this. This one is the second one I made, and it actually is a little bit less full than the first one I made, and you'll see pictures of one that's a little fuller and one that's a little less full. And whichever style you prefer, you can just, you know, you can cut more pieces to make it really full, or you could cut a few less pieces and make it a little less full. Whatever you prefer. So this one's a little less full than the first one I made that I showed you in the beginning that had like the little gold sprigs of berries in it. And the last thing that I'm going to be adding on now is the berries. You want to save those until the very end so that you can make sure you're placing those very specifically and strategically. So I just went around and placed those, tucked them right up underneath you know, a few of the leaves, and added a little punch of red to it. And I do apologize, my camera quit working on me before I realized it, and so this little loop of wire you see here, I just formed a little loop of wire with 18 gauge wire, and then I just took the pointy end of it and shoved it into the tip of the egg ball. That's all I did there to get that wire. So like I said, my camera accidentally quit on me and I didn't realize I had to film that part. But real simple to do. And then I'm just finishing it off with a ribbon here. So I just cut a piece of red velvet ribbon and I'm sort of looping it through the wire so it doesn't slide off. Then I'm tying a little knot and then a bow to complete the look. And there we have it. We have finished our mistletoe kissing ball, and it can now be hung up anywhere in your home. This one I did with red berries, and this one I did with some gold metallic berries. You can see the one is a little bit fuller than the other, so you can make it a little fuller or a little bit less full. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you in the next video. Merry Christmas!